So I was admitted September 6th to UC Davis, and I was there 10 days before I was intubated. They had me on 60 liters of high flow oxygen. And then the baby wasn't doing so well when they tried to intubate me with the medication. So that he started having prolonged decels, and they delivered him that same day I was intubated, which was September 16th.
Wow, it's incredible. So let's just talk a little bit about this. Being pregnant is difficult, and, going through all of that, as hard as it is, people already have issues with breathing and, digestion and all that kind of stuff. Can you tell me what was going through your mind when you found out that you got COVID while you were pregnant?
It was scary because I'm a nurse myself, so I kind of heard stories and seen people with COVID. So I was scared that because of the pregnancy, like I wasn't going to breathe well, and I have a background of like mild asthma, so I already have some shortness of breath. So that's what really took a toll on me, was the shortness of breath, and then not being able to take deep breaths, and I wasn't able to make or have like full sentence, like a conversation with like full sentences. Um, it was just scary because I didn't know if it was going to pass to the baby. Was he going to be affected? Like there were so many unknowns, so it was mainly like the fear of not knowing what was going to happen.
Sure, and that's already on top of, most of us have thought that we've gotten COVID at some point in time. So we've all kind of had that feeling like, oh no, what does this mean? Or
Mhm.
how sick am I going to get? But now you have the baby to think about on top of all of that. Can you tell me what was going through your head?
I was scared. Um, I was just thinking, was he gonna, if he did contract the virus, was he gonna have trouble breathing? Is he gonna have like fevers? Are they gonna have to, like, what interventions are they gonna be able to do since he's so small and it's a virus? They can't give him much, just supportive treatment. So it was scary knowing that side. And then I guess my biggest fear was like losing him, just because I didn't know what was gonna happen. And just seeing a lot of my family members, they were sick, but luckily no one was as sick as me. It hit me the hardest. So I think I was just mainly scared and worried for my other two children and um, my family. Like, I didn't know what they were thinking or how they were like coping with it. So it was hard, just knowing that we got this really bad virus, and are we going to beat it or not? Um, so that was my fear.
It looks like you have tears in your eye. Are you
Yeah.
still feeling emotional about this?
Yeah, I cried all morning reading this story. I just reliving the moment and just listen, like reading the story, how Trisha put it together. It like brought back so many. It's like cutting open a new wound, the old wound, or taking the scars off the old wound. But I'm very thankful to be here, and they had reached out to me if they can share the story, and I was, thinking, oh, of course, like I want people to know it's real. Like, if it doesn't affect you, it might affect a friend, a family member, or, eventually it might some way intertwine and affect you. Um, but I cried all morning, and I had rehab today because I came home when I came home, I was in a wheelchair and using a walker. And I also had oxygen because just from getting off my couch to go to the restroom or somewhere, I couldn't breathe. It was hard. Um, so I guess in a way it was just like kind of emotional reading about it, and just like all the thoughts playing back in my head. Like I spent 10 days, coherent before they even tried to intubate me. But when I was in the ICU, I was transferred there the same night I got to UC Davis because I wasn't doing well. So that was scary. And when I had like a team of doctors come in, and they stood around my bed, and I'm looking around like, what's going on? They had asked if I can sign consent for intubation, because if things got worse, that's what, our next step was, because the plasma transfusions that I received and all these other, the oxygen therapy, my body wasn't able to fight the virus because my lungs probably were being impacted by the pregnancy, or they weren't able to expand. So I think just reliving the moment when I had one of my nursemates, she was standing next to me, and I just like held on tight to her hand. Like I was so scared because they like sprayed something, like down my nose or something. And they were talking me through it, but it was just scary. I didn't know if I was going to wake up from this. Like I knew I was going to go under, and I didn't know I was going to come out of it. I had asked about the baby, like when would they deliver him or what, because he's only 33 weeks. And I had a cousin that delivered like at 31, 32 weeks, and he was in the NICU for a while. So I was just scared. Like I knew they were going to have to probably intubate him and hook him up to all these machines in the NICU. And I didn't know what was going to happen. And they said they were going to try to hold off and, like not do a C-section or, if just hold off on letting him grow, develop a little bit more in the womb. But my boyfriend got the call after they intubated me, and they said, "Oh, the procedure went well." Well, then he gets another call like a little bit after. Like, I don't know if it was like maybe an hour or less, and they told him, "Well, baby's heart, baby's not doing so well with probably the medication." So they had to call a code C, which is code over the intercom at UC Davis, and they had the whole team come down to the ICU and transfer me to the nearest OR. And they took him out, and they said he did really well because of the respiratory failure, because he was so young and he was a preemie, that they had to intubate him as well. But he's doing really well now. Yeah.
Tell me about that. Tell me about him.
Yeah, he's still like in the newborn stage. He's going to be 3 months on the 16th, but we're seeing a specialist, like educational. It's like an child-infant specialist, I believe, through Alta Regional, just to follow his milestones in development. They said he's doing really well. We have weekly or 2 visits a month. Next Friday is our next appointment.
And it was a couple months premature. Tell me how premature he was.
He was born at 33 weeks, so almost 2 months early. So I was due around Halloween time was my due date. So he came quite early.
I think that means he's destined for great things, actually. So tell me a little bit about, you were touching upon it there, when you found out that you were going to be intubated, you weren't sure if the baby was going to be born, right? So tell me about that kind of questioning period.
So it kind of happened really fast. Like they came in and they said that, that I'd have to be intubated. So I was scared. That's why I think I started questioning, like, what about the baby? Can I call my family? Because I honestly thought I would get better. And I wasn't expecting this, and which is, they had to prepare for the worst. And mentally, I guess I thought like, wow, like this is really happening. So I asked for them to call, if I can call my family, just to give them an update. And when I did, I told them that, they tried their best, but the next step is the intubation, to see if they can help me breathe and open up my lungs some more and see if that will heal or help me heal. And I just told them to tell my babies I love them a lot, because again, I didn't know if I was going to wake up or survive that whole process.
And how many other children do you have?
I have 2. I have a 9-year-old and a 2-year-old.
And what are their names?
Xavier, he's 9, and Aaliyah is 2 years old.
Well, I'm so happy for them that you are here today.
Yes.
Let me ask you about what that experience was like when you were waking up from the intubation.
When I woke up, they had told me, so the crazy thing is I had a dream. I woke up and I had like dug out something of my throat when I was intubated. I seen like these 3 cords in my dream, and I was able to take one out. But when I did, I was like gasping for air. I felt like I was drowning. Well, the nurses in the ICU told me that, well, you did take your tube out. I extubated myself, like unconsciously. I didn't mean to. And they said that I believe, well, they restrained me or something when I was intubated. So I said, you guys should have restrained me. And they said, we did, but you fought them, or you were able to come, undo your wristbands or whatever they were, mitts. And it was quite the experience, I should tell you. When I finally woke up, I was having hallucinations from the medication. I was seeing bats, children like crawling on the floor. It was kind of creepy, but the nurses were there to, let me know like everything's okay, that, you're in your hospital room, you're in the same room that you've been in, or the same room that I guess like my whole ICU stay in that certain ICU, because I was transferred from the cardiothoracic ICU to after the delivery, I believe, to medical ICU. So I just kept, I guess my mind was, I was having hallucinations. So that was scary, but they were reorienting me and letting me know like everything's okay, that, this is just part of the medication, like slowly it'll go away. You'll stop having these dreams or hallucinations. But my mom said that the day I woke up, the nurse had told her, so they were calling, my family would call every day in the evening to talk to me on speaker, even though I don't remember what conversations they were. But she said that I started to wake up when my mom had called, and she was on speaker. And I think that night or that day is when I extubated myself. But because I wasn't doing so well quite yet, they had to re-intubate me.
Do you know the name of the nurse whose hand you were holding?
Yeah, Michelle
Just
Duncan.
because we don't, just because the nurses that are involved in this don't get a lot of credit, I just want to ask you, can you tell me about that experience when the nurse held your hand?
She gave me comfort. It was probably one of the weakest moments I had, that because I didn't know what was going to happen. So she was very supportive, and just, I looked into her eyes and I held her hand very tight and just tried to focus on her versus them trying to stick, trying to intubate me. So I was very thankful for that. And she works in labor and delivery, but they had labor nurses in the ICU caring for me the whole time as well.
What does it mean when someone goes out of their way to that extent to comfort you in that sort of a time?
I feel like us nurses, like it's a way to provide, like, how do you say it? Like the kindness from her own heart. Like it's her duty to care for others, and she took oath like to do no harm, and just to be there and give support to patients and help them heal so they can go home and live their lives again. Or even in labor and delivery, like be there for a new life to be born, help them, and help parents get through, whether it's a tough time, a good time, or just cherish these moments.
And you said you're a nurse. What kind of a nurse are you?
I do postpartum med surgical as well. So I'll care for postpartum mothers in labor and delivery. And then Women's Pavilion at UC Davis, we see postpartum. We will do postpartum assignments or nursery with babies in our department within that floor, that area, sorry. And we also get med surgical patients.
How do you think your experience as a nurse kind of informed your perspective while you were going through all of this?
I think that in a way, it kind of scared me more because we see the backside of, good and bad, but just understanding the process and what to do to heal, and just stay focused and think positive. And that the nurses that were helping me, like, God, they each and every one holds a special place in my heart. Like, I know I do it for certain, mothers and babies, and I guess at the extent where I was, some of the nurses had told me that it's rare that we see women like you survive this. Like, you're our first one leaving the ICU from that had COVID, and delivered the baby. The baby's okay. He actually went home before me, So that was good. It opened my eyes a lot, and just being like on the other side as a patient was really tough too, especially going through COVID, because like the visitor policy, we could have if you're non-COVID, you could have 1 or 2 people, I believe, visiting. But for me, I didn't have not one visitor the whole 30 days, until infectious disease was able to release me from their care, like take the isolation off the order. And Sergio had brought the baby to see me for the first time. And that nurse, she actually helped me. Like I wasn't able like physically to get out of bed because I was so weak, but she helped me with physical therapy, get up and shower and clean down my whole room so they can come and see me. And I try to reach out to her too, to just thank her, like, because if it wasn't for her, like, who would have took the time to do that for me? Like, if some nurses or assignments are so busy, and they're they get tied up sometimes, and I get it. So I try to give them the benefit of the doubt, like, I just let them, I would reach out if I really needed something. But they were so like amazing, and she actually was watching from the window the first meeting, and like just taking him out of the car seat. And oh gosh, like I didn't have the strength to like unbuckle him, but dad helped. And I seen her having like tearing up from the window. So I had welcomed her back in the room, like, come back in. Like, and she was like, can I just please look at him? And I was like, oh yeah. Cause I had a picture that my friend Angelique, she's one of the nurses that helped quite a bit through this whole process. And she had printed out pictures of the baby and put them in a frame, and next to the Virgin Mary, and she said prayers for me throughout this whole experience. And they were just incredible. I just, like, every time I start thinking about it, I start having like flashbacks of this and that. And I think too, going back to the ICU, when I did wake up, it was the nurse reassured me, or I looked down at my stomach and the baby was gone. Like, I was just like what happened kind of thing, like what happened from like once I was intubated on to the, what events occurred. And she was able to tell me that they couldn't hold on anymore and they had to take him out. So she tried to get me on Zoom that afternoon to meet him, and that's when I did.
And you told me that you're doing rehab. So I just want to ask, how are you doing now?
I'm doing better. I'm not using oxygen or the walker. I'm not needing to use it, or the wheelchair. I'm more steady on my feet. Rehab is helping me condition my muscles and get my strength back, definitely, because that's like the biggest downfall that, of what COVID, how it affected me, was like the muscle weakness and the joint pain. And then I'm also seeing the pulmonologist for the shortness of breath I have, and just doing the tests that they order for me to see if, if this is COVID related, was it pregnancy related, like, because I was pretty healthy to start with. So they're just wanting to see what has been affected in my body. But so far, so good. I'm just so glad to be here.
Yeah, super. So I just want to confirm everything. What is your boyfriend's name?
Sergio.
And what is your baby's name?
Also, Sergio Jr.
Okay. I wasn't positive. I didn't want to assume. I thought it
Yeah,
was.
yeah.
Okay. Um, and, a lot of people still believe that this isn't even real. They, think that it's a hoax. So can you tell me what you would say to those people?
I would say that COVID is real. To, stay safe and practice social distancing, wash your hands and do everything you can to stay safe, because it's a virus that it doesn't have, how do they say it? It can affect anyone and everyone, even if it affects you just for 2 days. Like, my child had it before and she was sick only for 1 day. I had it and look what happened to me. So it's you don't know how it will affect you. So, just try to do your best to stay safe. And I hope it inspires others to think, you know, think twice about having the big gatherings, or Christmas is coming up. And I told my family, like, I'm sorry, like, this is too scary to relive this again. Like, I cannot. I mean, you guys can, I can do a drive by and drop off your gifts or something, but it's too scary. And it's hit home very, very, like, it hit home, too close to home, I should say. But just to think that, you know, it can affect anyone. So just be careful and know it's real.
The other thing is that when people, they've heard a lot of stories, but they haven't heard a lot of stories from women who are pregnant. And so your story is pretty unique as it goes out there. Because there will be pregnant women who find this story, what would you say to them?
I would say to be extra safe as well. Like, you know, be very careful when you go to your appointments, and, um, you know, wash your hands and stay away from others who are sick. Um, and then also tell people, tell them, like, if you know, if you're sick, stay home, or just don't come around. If they're not going to gather in big groups, like if they're going to have like one or two people come over, even though, you know, they shouldn't, um, just wear your mask and listen, keep an open mind, because you don't know, it can happen to you, it can happen to anyone. I know a few pregnant people that, you know, got COVID, and some of them were not hospitalized. Some of them, you know, they got a cold and that was all. But you never know. You can't, um, don't risk it. Don't risk getting so sick like that, and um, having, um, or even being, or how do you say it, like, don't risk it, and we don't want you to lose your life, or what, or compromise the baby either.
Absolutely. Um, now, I also just want to ask you before we part ways, um, when it comes to this whole experience, when it comes to kind of this moment that we're in with COVID, and because we really don't understand how it happens or where it happens, I didn't ask you, but do you know how you got it, or you know, likely scenario?
Yeah, so I was on maternity leave, and I had to go to an appointment. Um, and unfortunately, my mom got sick, and I heard her coughing, and, you know, she said she had a fever. She didn't feel good when I had got back from my appointment. And then I had told her, well, maybe you should go get checked out. Like, we don't know. Just like her, she didn't think that it can affect her, or she would ever get COVID. Um, so she went to the hospital and they tested her, and luckily they released her and they said everything was fine. Just, you know, take it day by day and get rest and lots of fluids, like, um, kind of like if they were treating the flu. Um, but she came, so she's my baby. She cares for my children when, you know, when I was at work or whatever. But I was already off of work, you know, so I was kind of surprised. Like, I'm like, she didn't give me a hug. She wasn't in my face, but because she was in the house, she could have touched something. I could have touched something, not knowing she was that sick. So because it took, I think, another 24 to 48 hours until she found out. But when she left, of course, we tried to clean and do as much as possible. And then 2 days after that is when I developed symptoms. So it didn't, I guess it didn't take a turn for the worse until, I have a pulse ox here at home. And when I finally decided, like, okay, I better go back to the hospital, my oxygen was at 84%. So, and I was having so much shortness of breath, and I could hardly walk. And then being pregnant, like, it was just like, it was terrible. So I took my mom, she tested positive, and then eventually we got my result, and then I was positive. Um, and that was actually the last time I think I saw her until I got out of the hospital.
And how sick was she compared to you?
Um, she wasn't, on the, like, the whole scale, like from like maybe asymptomatic to severe, like how I was, she was on the lower end, like very mild. She had some shortness of breath, and the worst she got, maybe some chest pain, but um, when they did her EKG and all her labs came back normal. So I would say more mild symptoms.
And I think you said, did you say you have asthma? Is that what you told me?
Yeah, I have asthma, but when they recently did my pulmonary function test, they said that it didn't even show like my lungs have any obstruction. So this was like a diagnosis like from maybe five years ago. But I've hardly ever like I don't take any routine medications for that, or inhalers like maybe once a year. Like if it got really really bad, like my allergies flared up and going up and down the stairs, like maybe a puff or two here, but it wasn't. It was just totally. I don't know. They said it could have been a contributing factor to why I had COVID so bad. That and the pregnancy is what they say.
And just because people will ask, were there any other factors that could have contributed?
In my own case, no, that's all I heard really from the doctors and the whole team, like infectious disease and pulmonary, like they're just thinking because there's not a lot of research out here, about COVID. They're gathering as much information as they could or they can daily. But those were the contributing factors like the asthma. And I don't have any heart disease, no kidney disease, no diabetes. So nothing like that that could have probably contributed to it.
Okay. And you live in Sacramento? Where in
Yeah.
Sacramento?
And Natomas.
Okay. Um, I just got to ask because is the baby around?
The baby's upstairs. I can grab him.
Would you? I would love to
Yeah.
see him on camera.
Okay.
It'd be
Okay.
so
One
cool.
moment.
All right. Ah, so cute. Hi there, little guy.
Say hi. Sorry. He's right. I just woke him up. Hi, baby.
Will you just, because this is for the camera, will you just say, this is Sergio and tell me how he's doing?
This is Sergio, and he's doing really well. Say hi.
Oh, have you noticed any personality emerge yet? Are you seeing?
Yeah, he's just starting to smile. He tries to talk gooing and cooing, and he's day by day. They said that he'll start learning more things, and we do. I love to sing to him, and he'll try to like open his mouth and like if he's talking or singing back to me. Yeah. How you doing?
And when he gets older, what are you gonna tell him about this moment?
Oh, he's very special. And he's a fighter. He fought so hard to be here as well. He's my miracle baby.
Well, I feel so privileged to be able to talk to you and so privileged to be able to have met him. Thank you for sharing your story. It'll help a lot of people. And I'm so glad you are both here and you're doing well.
Thank you so much.
Okay, well, that's all for me. Is there anything you want to say that I haven't asked you about?
Um, I'm trying to think. No, the only thing was that no, I think we had mentioned the nurses, the ones I work with, they were very supportive and they put so many care packages and gift cards together for him because there was no way to have a baby shower. They opened their hearts and the support was amazing. I didn't, you don't expect things like that, but they truly did help out so much. And I appreciate them for helping my family.